Pride in America, an ABC 10 News special sponsored by Hamul Casino.
I'm ABC 10 News anchor Lindsay Pena, here in the heart of San Diego's LGBTQ community, Hillcrest. This rainbow crosswalk on University and Normal was created in 2020 as a symbol of inclusion, diversity, and activism. But just 2 years later, the community is facing new challenges as it tries to achieve those ideals. That's why we've gathered San Diegans with an array of perspectives and experiences to discuss the past, present, and future.
Hello, my name is Amber St. James, and I am the African bearded queen of sunny San Diego. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I identify as a non-binary, trans femme, black icon, and legend here in San Diego, California. And today, I'm here to talk about all the things that we do and how we can come together as Pride in America.
Hello, my name is Giacomo Battaglia, my pronouns are he, him, and I'm a gay man.
Hi, my name is Jacob Aragon, my pronouns are he, him, and I'm also a gay man.
And we are LGBTQ+ advocates and students at the University of San Diego.
And we are both dedicated to creating a safe and inclusive space for everyone at a religious institution.
Hello, my name is Ashley Davis. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I identify as lesbian, and I am a general council member of the Black LGBTQ+ Coalition. We are a central hub for our Black LGBTQ+ folks here in San Diego, where they can come to for events if they are having hardships, and we also provide scholarships and do a lot of community work here.
I'm Connor Maddox. My pronouns are he, him, his. I identify as a transgender man. I've been doing advocacy and education work in the San Diego community since 2003 when I first transitioned. I have been honored to be a speaker at many colleges, businesses, and doing trainings for various organizations. It's been an honor to be part of the San Diego community and of the community events that I've been able to participate in. I'm also a volunteer with Pride, and I'm retired from the LGBT Center here in Hillcrest. I'm thrilled to be part of the Pride in America show, and thank you for having me here.
Good evening. We're broadcasting to you tonight from the Diversionary Theater in the heart of the University Heights neighborhood of San Diego. This theater has the distinction of being the third oldest LGBTQ theater in the United States. We want to start off our discussion tonight by talking about what we've been seeing in the legal system. New laws have been passed across the country limiting rights. And even though those might not be here in San Diego, how do you think that affects people here in San Diego and just the overall community as a whole? Posing the question to anyone who wants to answer right now.
I just think it's baffling, being this far in age, it's 2022 and we're still fighting just for the freedom of, just basic civil rights. It's crazy. And it's I feel like people are think about the children, because I am a mom, so I think about my child when certain laws are being passed and things are happening, because it doesn't just affect us. Even though every laws are different in each state, it still affects us as a whole.
Yeah. You're mentioning children, younger generation. I'm gonna look to you too right here, since you are in college right now. Yeah. Just give me your thoughts.
I think as as a college student and young adult, I think the feeling is fear, and it's uncertainty, and it's untrust. It's in 10 years, am I gonna be able to adopt? Am I able to get married? And those are just basic things that older generations have fought so hard for. So the idea that we have to fight for that, and there's a whole plethora of rights that we might have to fight for even more, is just a little scary and frightening.
Absolutely, and I think what's most frustrating is that the people in power are applying one ideology to the whole of America and stuff. And, my dad's side is Catholic. I grew up Catholic myself, and I understand the scripture where some of these people come from, with things like Roe v. Wade or gay marriage and all this stuff. But not everybody is Christian, not everybody is Catholic. My mom's side is actually Jewish. And in the Jewish faith, if two men are Jewish, they can get married even if they're gay. A rabbi will do that. It's fine, There are so many people who don't fit into those communities, and you can believe whatever you want, but having the choice does not mean you're forced to do it, whereas the opposite is true. You know what I mean? If you can't do it, you're forced to make a choice in that position. So I just think we shouldn't be applying things so universalistically to a big and very diverse nation.
Connor, any thoughts?
Yes, I'm part of the trans community, and I know that from talking with my folks around here, there's a lot of fear a lot of fear of what's going to happen to us. I work with parents of transgender kids as well, and they're just terrified. If any of this, started happening in California, how would they protect their children? And how would we make sure that these laws don't come here? It's just so much fear that's created for our entire country. I mean, we're blessed here in California, especially for the LGBT community, to have so many laws that protect us, but that's not true everywhere else. And I try to find ways to reassure them, but it's really hard. I can't say for sure that'll never happen here. I can't say that because we never know, right? But I think talking about it and not bottling it up inside of it ourselves, and expressing it and talking about it, I think it helps. Otherwise, that anxiety is going to get just, through the roof. It's going to be difficult.
Amber, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about that, just the community as a whole, and are people talking? Do you feel that people are comfortable sharing how they feel right now?
I think that well, for one, I think that as a community, as many of us have spoken on, right, that there's that fear that's going on, right, of a lot of people feeling like, oh my God, what is this going to mean for us? And a lot of folks that live in California feeling like, oh, well, we have some sort of safety net here, right? But understanding that because we have that safety net, we should recognize how this actually does affect us, because there are so many people from other communities that will be coming here in order to find that safe haven, to find that community, to find those resources, right? And I think one of the things that is really beautiful about seeing our community come together for one another, even for folks that are coming from outside of our community to come in to find that safe haven, right, is knowing that we have these resources here, is knowing that even though we may not come from the same places, we may not have the same ideologies, we still see one another as another human being that's looking for that community, that's looking for that way out, that's looking for that, that, hey, I need that support, right? I think one of the other things that is really one of the things that I don't see talked about enough in all these conversations about, what could happen because of Roe v. Wade is also this conversation around privacy, right? And that what it really was doing was rolling back the privacy that each one of us has to make our own autonomous decisions about our bodies, what we do with our bodies, whether that's, whether or not we're having children, who we love, who we marry, all of these different kinds of things. Not to mention, I know that, I think I'm blanking on the name, but I know it was one of the justices that had spoke about wanting to reconsider a lot of the different laws and things all the way back into the recriminalization of queer identities, right? And folks understanding, like, this is what's on the line for so many of us. Like, it wasn't just about Roe v. Wade, it's about what that represented for so many of us in not only our own communities, but across this nation.
I want to jump to now, and you guys kind of touched on this, talking about how different, just people are in general, but then within the LGBTQ plus community, there are so many different people and different places where they've come from and different ways that they identify. Do you think sometimes that does make it challenging to unify behind issues and behind causes, or would you say the community kind of puts aside their differences and says, this is a priority, this is what we need to work on right now?
I think it is very much that, right? I think that in the same way that there's such beauty in the diverse and ever-changing identities that we have in our community, or the language, or the ways in which we present ourselves, right, is that we still recognize each other as we are still going through the same thing, right? We are still a human having a human experience on this ball flying throughout space, right? And understanding that even in that, we can still see the human in one another, right? So regardless of how we may identify, regardless of what our pronouns are, or how we may present, or who we may love, and things of that nature, that we are still there to fight for one another, because we do recognize that we are still a community, right? And I think that for a lot of people that are not a part of this community, they see that and they're like, well, how can you feel like you're a community if you're all so different? It's like, well, in that difference is where we have that commonality, because we all feel like we're different, right? We all feel like, oh, I'm the odd one out, or I don't have somebody, right? And in that, we've been able to find each other and find those comrades in this revolution that we're trying to start.
Exactly. And we've come a long way in this community. Now, I transitioned in 2003, and there's been huge changes since then. And when our community, my community, was trying to gain their rights and be more vocal, we didn't have a lot of support from the LGBT community at all. In fact, most people I met from the gay and lesbian community had no clue what transgender meant, didn't know any transgender people. We didn't exist really, and they didn't really care that whether we existed or not. But that's changed incredibly much, so that not only are they more educated about who we are, but they support us all the time now. They're there for our events, they're there to be our allies, they're there to raise us up, which is an amazing feeling that we can put aside any differences and educate each other about who we are, and then come together when we need to. And I see that in San Diego so much that it gives me hope. It really does.
I think that's the important about wide-scale representation, and that's why even just with the panelists we have here today and stuff, there are so many communities contained within this LGBTQ plus spectrum that we need to see different people, different sides of ourselves within it, you know. And I know just as a gay man how much I've been through, and I'm still a cis white male. You know, there's so many privileges that I've had that other people have not been afforded, and so, you know, I want to see all those voices being brought to the table. I want to see that here. And I think this panel is a great place to start. But in the media in general, I've just been able to see a lot more. We talked about last time with trans joy, not just trans people in the media, but also them succeeding, different types of trans people, trans celebrities. And, you know, that applies to any intersectionality, any identity in the spectrum. So.
Yeah. One thing about when people think about laws, when they think about putting anything into perspective or community, it's about those shared experiences, because it's hard to identify when you don't have a shared experience. So when you're talking about your shared experience as transgender, I can't identify with that because I'm not transgender, but it's just empathy. If you have it, because pain is pain. Discrimination is discrimination at the end of the day. Yes, everyone has a heightened discrimination than others. I know Amber and I can kind of attest on that. Like just being in the Black community in general, everyone, it's almost like everyone is like, how can this happen? It's just, and it's almost like, I don't want to say like, it's just like, oh, now you get it, because it's been happening to us. It's like we've been screaming and yelling and saying, this is not right. You shouldn't care what someone does. It doesn't matter what they look like, what skin color, but it's like now that you're experiencing a certain type of discrimination, it's like a light bulb kicks off. And it's like, why does that light bulb, like why, it's like, why do you have to experience something so traumatic for you to get it? And it shouldn't have to be traumatic like that for you to understand or empathize with someone. I always tell people, you don't have to, you can agree to disagree, but you have to respect people's decisions, even if it doesn't apply to you. Still respect their decision at the end of the day, because it's not your life. You have to live your own life. And you shouldn't have to force your beliefs on anyone. I always say you can advise, like even back going to the church, like I grew up in the church, dealing with, especially like in my community, being Black and gay in the church is a conversation in itself. Like it's so huge in the conversation, but it's just like at the end of the day, you can teach someone something or advise them on something, but that necessarily, like, if you don't believe in God, not saying you don't, I can't force you. That's something you have to experience for yourself. So at the end of the day, it's like, you can't make a law and feel like, oh, this is what's going to represent the majority, because at the end of the day, it doesn't. Like, especially if the whole Roe versus Wade thing, if you're a man telling me you've never had a baby, so how can you tell me what I can and do and with my body if you don't even know the experience of childbirth?
Yeah. Perspective.
Yeah, it's just all in perspective.
Different perspectives.
Yeah.
I want to kind of direct the first part of this question towards our older panelists. Not that anybody is old, but older who maybe have some more experience. What do you see in the younger generation that gives you hope for the future?
Everybody.
As the oldest here, I do see the younger folks being much more involved than I think previous generations in their communities, and having an openness and willingness to fight for other people. Even if they're not part of the LGBTQ community, I see lots of allies from our local high schools and things, you know, support their friends and be there for them. Yeah. And I think it's amazing, and again, it gives me hope for the future, because we need these new generations coming up. They haven't experienced what my generation has, you know, of really fighting for rights when we had no rights at all, and coming through all of that. And they have it I don't want to say they have it easy, but it's easier for them. And they could just slide along and say, well, I got what I need, I can get married, I live in California, I can do this and that. But they don't. They say, there's still more to fight. You know, there are things we have to protect. And they see their friends and communities in other states being subjected to such horrible, horrible things, like in Texas, that they don't want to stand for it. And they do have things to say about it, and they're willing to pick up and fight and protest and write letters and make phone calls, you know, and it really is great, and I really admire these younger generation we have right now.
Amber, I'm going to direct to you. You're nodding a lot.
You may go, Nadia.
Of course. I think for me, like I definitely second on all of that. I feel like it is so beautiful to be able to see these younger generations really come together and recognize that, like, just because they may have a struggle that they go through, that is not the only struggle, right? Is recognizing that we live intersectional lives and understanding that all of our justice and liberation is interlocked, right? We do not live single issue lives, as my struggles are the same struggles that you're going through, right? And the same struggles that you're going through, the same struggles that you're going through, right? In the effort of recognizing that oppression anywhere is oppression everywhere, right? And so knowing that we need to be there to fight for one another, because only when we are fighting for the most marginalized are we being able to free all of us, right?
Beautifully said. Thank you. Now to our younger panelists, I would say, what do you see from the older or more experienced generations that inspires you, that makes you want to act the way they're describing right now?
I think what the past generations have done, they set that precedent of working hard and fighting for rights that I might not be able to reap all the benefits from. And I think with all the political turmoil that we're going through right now and our future rights into question, we have to really carry that tradition on. That I'm going to fight to the nail for women's rights, and I'm going to have to fight for the nail for everyone with a uterus, and I'm hopefully not, but I've had to fight for the nail for marriage equality and things like that, even if we might not be able to get the benefits from that. And that's something that the past generations have really shown us, and that's why I think that fight and that call to action is really there. And we see it a lot with our peers, and we see it at our school. And yeah, and I think that's what they've established for us, so.
Absolutely. And
yeah, of course, no, thank you. Thank you.
Well, on a positive note, but to go to that too, I think also just the spaces that you guys have created, all of the things in Hillcrest, all the coalitions, the clubs, the communities, the centers, it is so wonderful. And I feel so thankful on the more positive sides of that those exist and those aren't going anywhere right now. And that actually we're going to be leaning deeper into those as we need to fight more for these things that should be human rights. You know what I mean? It's really you guys who are doing that. And we're so fortunate for it. And we can't wait to be 21 and enjoy all the benefits of that, but I
love it. I forgot that you were
Can't enjoy it all yet.
Right. But I think that's the beauty in so many of the spaces and things that we have created, right? Even just those of us here on this panel, and the different ways in which, even as ourselves walking throughout this world as ourselves, we are creating that space. We're creating that acceptance, right? For someone to see us and go, oh my God, I can give myself the permission to be myself. So often I feel like those of us who have been in this, you know, we will get that where folks will come up and they'll be like, oh my God, thank you so much for everything that you do. I know, like, for me and my production company, such as St. James Productions, one of the things that we try to do is creating those spaces, right? Because we recognize that, as you talked on earlier, that representation really can change the dynamic for someone in feeling like they are seen and they are worthy and they have something to offer into this world, which then can push them to become that activist and say, oh my God, I have a voice. I should use it. Here's how I can.
And something to add to that too that I always say is, even just, I think, being yourself and going out every day into the world as yourself is such a powerful thing. I used to get so caught on myself about, like, what's the next thing I'm going to do for the community? What's after this? What's after that? And of course, those things are important. It's those big milestones that move us forward. But collectively, it's everybody together. Even if, you know, in the San Diego community, but even in your own community and stuff. Even if you're the only gay person around, you are being a light, you're being a beacon for other people just by showing up and being yourself. So thank you for doing that in your own communities, and keep doing it. And it's scary, I know, but you're making a change.
But, you know, I've worked with the trans community, you know, for almost 20 years, and people will say, well, I can't be an activist, I can't be an advocate, and I don't know how to do it. It's scary. And I said, but you're out here being yourself. You walk in the world, and as you, that's being an activist. That's being an advocate. Because you're giving off a big, huge message to everyone around you that it's okay to be me. It's okay to be proud to be me. And I can just walk the world, and then other people will have the courage to walk the world. you know, as ourselves. And that's an incredible gift that we give each other by being out there, you know? And you don't have to conquer the world, just conquer your own little neighborhood even, you know?
I think that's such a simple but really powerful message that might get kind of lost in translation sometimes. So we will be going into all the Pride festivities here in San Diego this coming week. I want to touch on what you guys think about Pride in and of itself, Pride Month, the festivities that we do, and whether you think that maybe Pride has become too commercialized or we have lost the original meaning of what Pride was and is supposed to be. Thoughts on that?
I mean, I think there's no way to lose what Pride is supposed to be, right? I think that in the same way that each of our identities evolves and changes and updates with the times, right? We recognize that Pride, while it started as a riot against police brutality, right? We also recognize that in that there were moments of joy, right? There was moments of joy while they were fighting for their justice. And in that is what we still do today, right? In recognizing that having these celebrations is having that celebration of the life that we get to live, right? Is having that celebration of every day we choose to get up and we choose to be ourselves, or even just that day, you chose to get up and go to the parade and enjoy and rejoice with other people that are similar or coming from the same community, right? Because you're recognizing that that is an act of resistance and resilience and choosing joy, because so often this world that was not made for a lot of us, you know, unfortunately, it chooses to try to put us down, right? To make us not choose joy, to try to demolish and destroy our happiness, right? And so every day that we choose to be happy and we choose to fight for justice with that joy is being in honor of the Stonewall riots and being, you know, in honor of Marsha P. Johnson and being in honor of all the things that come from where Pride started, right? Now, to speak to that other piece of, you know, the commercialization, we also recognize that capitalism is terrible, right? And in that, unfortunately, there have been ways in which I do believe we see a lot of pink washing or rainbow washing, right? Where you'll have big businesses and things that will be like, oh, we slapped a rainbow on, or oh, we gave to this organization. But it's also like, well, how are we taking these moments to give to smaller organizations, right? How are we making sure that not only are we slapping on that rainbow, but like, how are we actually giving back to these communities? How are we taking the powers that we have and giving up that power to these communities that need that, right? How are we making sure that we are bringing their voices into so many of these rooms that we have privileges to exist in, right? I think those are the ways in which we can begin to combat a lot of that pink washing or rainbow washing that happens in the commercialization of Pride. But again, that is part of that recognition of having that justice and that joy, right? Is knowing that, hey, I'm showing up to Pride, I want to have a good time. But also, that does not mean that I'm just going to let Target do whatever they want because they slapped a rainbow on it. Right. Like, no, I'm going to ask, what are you doing more for my community?
Yeah,
completely. And I just think, too, it's, you know, I understand why you wouldn't want to be rainbow all year. It would lose some significance in that sense. And, you know, but of course, you see the jokes about July 1st, everything's back to normal colors and stuff like that. But I get why it wouldn't be rainbow all year. But the thing is, so often you'll see companies who are making products but not backing them, at very least donations to LGBTQ charities. And of course, the bigger ones are amazing, like the Trevor Project. And, you know, there's so many like that. But I think you make a great point about the small ones, too. And I think it's just really important that if a company is going to make a rainbow branded product, some of which I love, I'm always excited every year to see Converse and what they're coming up with. I'm like, oh my gosh. I've only actually bought them once, but next year maybe we'll see. It always depends on the designs. But you know, it's always exciting fun to see that, but they need to be backing it with donations and stuff.
Intentionality.
And, exactly, and even throughout the year, hiring LGBTQ plus community members and back, you know, in other charities that they're supporting anyways, to be giving money to LGBTQ plus firms. And I think too, especially as we talk about smaller businesses, I'm really lucky to get to work with many startups in the area with the Free Enterprise Institute, which is, and I do some marketing for them, and I've gotten to meet so many amazing startups in the community that are really so much more focused on these issues and grounded in it because they're more connected to the community. One that comes to mind immediately that I recently did an interview with her was Taylor Fields from Nostalgia Coffee. So she's they're a coffee startup and she is wonderful. She's an out proud LGBTQ plus business owner and just a wonderful thing. They, you know, constantly year round they're supporting the LGBTQ plus community, but Also with that, during Pride Month, they had, I believe it was like a 10% donation for one of their most popular brands of coffee and stuff. And if anybody's watching out here, if you love some coffee, they are great. And they make some brew bags, like tea bags. It's local, exactly.
Oh my
So
gosh.
cool.
Even better.
The time has flown, guys. I'm so sorry, but we are out of time. But that doesn't mean, I know, our conversations, I'm so glad that everybody has connected on this panel, because some of you did not know each other before. So I just hope that this conversation continues amongst yourselves, amongst the people that are watching. We thank you so much at home for giving us some of your time and listening to what people have to say in our local LGBTQ+ community. For ABC 10 News, I'm Lindsay Pena. Good night.
And now, San Diego Connect.
I'm Alex Steiniger, and you've just seen Pride in America, an ABC 10 News special. And here to continue the conversation, we're lucky to be joined by Erica Pinto, chairwoman of Hamul Indian Village. So great to have you on, Erica. So tell us why it was important for Hamul Casino to sponsor this special Pride in America.
It's important for us to sponsor Pride in America because we are one of the major employers. We have over 1,200 employees at Hamul Casino. And it's important for us to support our LGBTQ2S+ employees, make sure they come to work and feel supported, heard, seen, included, because a happy team member makes a happy business. But not only am I an employer of over 1,200, I'm also a member of the LGBTQ2S+ community in my position as tribal leader of Hamul Indian Village.
Excellent. And there are so many initiatives that your organization is involved with to help spread the message of Pride and, of course, to support Pride itself. What are some of those? Could you run through them?
I'm happy to tell you that we have raised the Pride flag for 2 years in a row at Hamul Casino. And the reason why that's so exciting is because when you come to the Hamul Casino, you will be greeted by the Pride flag. And what we did was we put our tribal seal on the Pride flag. It's just a beautiful thing to see. Second of all, we are going to march in the San Diego Pride Parade. Employees, tribal members of Hamul Casino, we're there to stand with the LGBTQ2S+ community. Very exciting.
That is exciting. So not only are you spreading this message within the organization to the community at large, any advice on how viewers can support Pride?
Yes, educate yourself. Support your LGBTQ2S+ neighbor, your friend, your loved one, your relative, whoever it is. But love is love, and happy Pride.
Love is love. Erica Pinto, thanks so much for joining us today, spreading the message, and of course for sponsoring Pride in America here on ABC 10. Great to see you. And to learn more, go to hamulcasinosd.com.